Oh, Stacy, you are truly a delightful woman. Oh, hello there. I'm Barney Stinson. And tonight, I'm proud to bring you a very special presentation about a very special man, a truly remarkable man, an extraordinary man. In fact, I would go as far as to say that he is legend. Wait for it. How I Met Your Mother is a 2000 sitcom about 5 friends living in New York. Ted, the narrator and the titular I, who is telling his children the story of
How I Met Your Mother.
Marshall and Lily, Ted's best friends from college. Robin, a woman that Ted meets at a bar, fails to date, becomes friends with, convinces to date him, breaks up with, and then remains friends with but continues to be romantically interested in. And Barney, a suit-wearing, cigar-smoking, womanizing bro who only cares about suits, cigars, and sleeping with hot women. Barney Stinson is, at heart, the standard sitcom wacky character. Seinfeld had Kramer, Scrubs had the janitor, Frasier had... well, Frasier didn't really have one, but you get what I'm talking about. The wacky character who does wacky things, is usually the most popular character with audiences, gets all the best punchlines, and slightly bends the rules of reality around them for the purposes of making their wacky antics more wacky. How I Met Your Mother gets a unique excuse for this, in that anything Barney says or does that is going a little too far past believable, you can chalk up to Ted embellishing the story. Barney's problem is that, unlike Kramer, he doesn't live in a world of single-episode stories where everything pretty much goes back to the status quo at the end of the episode for eternity, or at least between their creation and the time the show becomes unprofitable. Barney lives in an ongoing narrative that has an actual endpoint. That is the explicit promise of the show's premise, that this is a continuous, ongoing story that is building towards a conclusion. This isn't a Batman or a Fantastic Four. This is a saga. A Y the Last Man. I would even give you that this is a bone. This is the tension that lies at the heart of being Barney Stinson. He is a joke character, designed to never change, and a story that's very premise promises change. He is the wacky character, and the only effect time is supposed to have on the wacky character is to make them more and more improbably wacky as the show progresses, as each wacky antic must top the previous wacky antic. In the beginning of the show, Barney was the cool but douchey friend who always knows where a great party is happening and tells you that you're lame if you say you just want to stay in tonight.
Look, our forefathers died for the pursuit of happiness, okay? Not for the sit around and wait of happiness. Now, if you want, you can go to the same bar, drink the same beer, talk to the same people every day, or you can lick the Liberty Bell.
He uses sleazy pickup lines to get women, and he fails about at least half the time. By the end of the show, he's a cartoon character who regularly engages in month-long grifts, costing who knows how much money, in order to trick women into sleeping with him through lies and deception.
Over the years, I've launched a variety of elaborate systems that are always working to get me laid. Like my pop-up ads. Oh, hi. I'm Dr. Barney Stinson. Are your really large breasts making everyday tasks difficult?
Oh, there's just gotta be a better way.
Sidebar. Is Barney Stinson a rapist? Yes. Yes, he absolutely is. To quote Grant Morrison's Watchmen 2, Tachyon Boogaloo, time is the school in which we learn. Time is the fire in which we burn. The sitcom wacky character is not built to survive an encounter with time. Time brings consequences to actions, and that is deadly to the wacky character. They must either learn and change, shedding their absurdity to become reborn as a believable person, or they must burn out under the weight of their own absurdity, an inferno fueled by their increasing Flanderization.
Looks like I'm gonna have to baptize you myself.
Barney oscillates between the two paths. Every 3 seasons or so, the writers will decide that Barney needs to have some character development, stop being a one-note lecherous fuckboy, and actually grow up and enter into a functional adult relationship. And so we get Robin, and Nora, and Quinn, and every time he manages to claw his way up the muddy hillside of actual character development, only to slide right back down into Lechtown.
And Barney, having broken his engagement with Quinn, was slowly trying to pick himself back up.
Welcome to Bangtoberfest! Have a Bangtoberfest t-shirt, I'm back! Have a Bangtoberfest t-shirt, I'm single again! available.
Because... well, I guess because the writers don't know what to do with a Barney that is more than a one-note joke character. Maybe the writers are worried about adding a new member to the permanent cast with Barney's serious girlfriend. But, come on, he could still have personal growth without getting a serious girlfriend. He could just have a string of forgettable, disposable partners like Ted and Robin. Or, and this is a crazy notion, they could explore an aspect of Barney's character growth that isn't related to women. Remember how there was that whole subplot about Barney reuniting with his estranged father, and how that pretty much only lasted 2 episodes, even though it was some of the best work they ever did with Barney?
Barney, what is going on?
This is mine.
I don't understand.
JJ gets a childhood, a dad, a real family, and a basketball hoop? No. I at least get the hoop. I'm taking it with me.
Please, just come down and talk to me.
Why? Why should I? You're lame, okay? You're just some lame suburban dad.
Why does that make you so mad?
Because if you were gonna be some lame suburban dad, why couldn't you have been that for me?
There's as much interesting depth to Barney as the writers are willing to put in the time to dig up and find. Barney's real curse is not simply that he lives in a narrative. Rather, his curse is that he lives in a specific narrative. The narrative where Ted and Robin end up together, which the creators carved in stone back in Season 2 when they went ahead and filmed the ending. The natural arc of Barney's growth is for him and Robin to end up together. It apparently must be the natural arc, because the writers keep circling and returning to it over and over. But of course, Barney can't end up with Robin, because the pre-written ending dictates that she must end up with Ted. This, of course, is what made viewers have a goddamn meltdown about the final episode. We watched an entire season of Barney and Robin's wedding, the culmination of their narrative arc, or at least Barney's narrative arc, and the creators knew the entire time that it wasn't going to stick because they needed to undo it in a single scene so that Robin could be free to play the role she was pre-written to play. The narrative trap that holds Barney in place is also the snare that contains Robin. Robin can never have any kind of serious development in her romantic life because she must always be free to play her part in the ending. Her relationship with Don will never come to anything. Her relationship with Kumar will never come to anything. Her relationship with Samuel Anders will never come to anything. She is required to stay free to forever remain in Ted's orbit, tethered to the man with an elastic band, ready to snap them into place for their final scene. The characters are pawns in a game they don't know was finished years ago. Ted is also trapped in this curse. Ted is a man who has pined after a woman for decades and was never able to fully move on, even after getting married and having children. This is pathetic and creepy. The show wants you to think of it as this grand romantic story of this love that endured through the ages and through all these life changes, but no, it's just sad. A sad, pitiable man destined to end up circling back to where he had been decades before, unable to escape the inertial force of a pre-taped ending that no one is apparently willing to discard for a better, organically assembled ending. When called out on his inability to get over Robin and move on with his life, Ted will respond by crying out, "It's Robin!" as if she's Lois Lane and he's Superman.
How long have you been hung up on Robin? 8 years?
I'm in love with her, okay? If you're looking for the word that means caring about someone beyond all rationality and wanting them to have everything they want, no matter how much it destroys you, it's love. And when you love someone, you don't stop, ever. Even when people roll their eyes or call you crazy, even then, especially then, you don't give up. Because if I could give up, if I could just, take the whole world's advice and move on and find someone else, that wouldn't be love. That would be some other disposable thing that is not worth fighting for.
As if this is some great destined romance for the ages, and not just one obsessive loser who spent an entire season trying to figure out how to convince Robin, a woman who clearly did not want to date him, because Ted is a man who cannot take no for an answer. Because a woman might be the one, so he needs to violate all her personal boundaries and remove her agency just in case.
If you want me to say yes right now, I can't do that.
Well, if it's not yes, then it's a no.
Then I guess it's not meant to be.
Nice try, buddy.
Good hustle out there.
Look at the bright side. At least you got some closure. She's made her choice and you can finally move on.
Screw that. This ain't over.
Oh,
You sat here in this very booth and you said,
I don't care what I said. This is gonna happen. She can't say it's not meant to be. It is meant to be, and you know why? Because I mean it to be.
I've seen people argue that the message of the show was that Ted had to abandon his quest for the one before he could be ready to meet the mother and his actual love. Except in the end he gets with Robin, because she is absolutely the one, and all Ted had to do was hold out long enough to get exactly the ending he'd always fantasized about. How I Met Your Mother, then, is ultimately a story about how if you just want a girl hard enough and constantly do big showy displays of affection, even though you made her get rid of her dogs, you'll ultimately end up with her, no matter how many times she doesn't want to be with you. People defend the ending as being good because it's realistic, but what does that even mean? To quote Grant Morrison in Animal Man, when Animal Man, the character, asked Grant Morrison, the writer, if he could have a happy ending to his story, "Sorry, it wouldn't be realistic. Pointless violence and death is realistic. Comic books are realistic now." Realism is misery. The ending of How I Met Your Mother is realistic because Robin and Barney get divorced, which is sad and therefore realistic, and the mother dies of anime mom disease, which is sad and therefore realistic. Now, I understand this impulse. I too was once a 15-year-old boy who thought that gratuitous misery was what made stories more realistic. But then I became a fucking adult. Also, I think it's pretty weird to defend the ending as being realistic when it features a man hooking up with the woman he's been pining after for 20 years while his kids, who are upsettingly horny for their dad to marry one of his closest friends, cheer him on.
What, I just call her up on the phone and ask her out on a date?
Yes!
And that's something you guys would want?
Yes!
If they were this adamant on locking Barney into a doomed timeline where he will fail to do anything that doesn't align with the Ted Robin Alpha timeline, they could have at least had the courage to acknowledge that. To be honest with the audience that Barney was never going to really change, because they didn't have any ideas for what to do with a changed Barney. Am I saying that I want an ending where Barney looks directly into the camera, says, "I can see you," walks off the set and into limbo, the realm of forgotten sitcom characters, crosses the freezing plains, and ends up at the home of his creators, where he asks them why he can never change, and they tell him it's because he's funnier that way, and he screams, "This isn't a joke! This is my life!" I mean, yeah, obviously I would have preferred that. Ultimately, Barney is only allowed to have the worst, most shallow character development possible. After he and Robin get divorced, Barney immediately slams back into his old ways, as if he learnt literally nothing from his time with Robin. Or at least, he does until he tries for a perfect month, sleeping with a different woman every night for 31 nights in a row, and ends up getting Girl 31 pregnant. That's right, Girl 31. The writers didn't even bother to give her a name. Upon meeting his daughter for the first time, Barney declares that she is
The love of my life. Everything I have and everything I am is yours forever.
and has a complete personality flip from being a womanizing lech to a dad who lectures women in bars about how they're inappropriately dressed.
Hey.
Hi.
Want to join us for shots?
Shots? Before lunch on a Thursday? It's like you're trying to make bad decisions. You young ladies need to go home, put on some decent clothes, and take a good hard look at your lives. Get. Call your parents. They're probably worried sick.
In the space of 5 minutes, and ignoring everything in the preceding 9 seasons, Barney has suddenly had his character arc. He is a dad now, so he is a good person. Of course, as sexual assault survival advocate Grace Tame said,
It shouldn't take having children to have a conscience. And actually, on top of that, having children doesn't guarantee a conscience.
the ultimate lesson of Barney's story is that if you become a father, you suddenly become a good person, because all fathers are good and moral people who never mistreat women, especially the ones in their own family. Isn't that right, dear?
My father tried to kill me.
When I was 14 or so, I started getting obnoxiously into anime and manga, because Dragon Ball Z was on Cheese TV in the morning, and
Neon Genesis Evangelion
was on SBS on a Saturday night. During this time, I discovered that the school library had exactly one manga series in it, Iron Fist Chimney. Iron Fist Chimney was a story about a boy learning martial arts, and every story arc there would be a new opponent with a new unbeatable move, and Chimney would have to figure out a way to defeat that opponent. Standard shonen stuff, in other words. The reason I bring up this manga is because there's 2 things I've always remembered about it. The first thing I remember is that in one arc, Chimney fights a guy whose special move is that he slaps the side of your head so hard it creates shockwaves that pulverize your brain. Chimney counters this by spending all day doing one-finger push-ups so that his fingers become so strong that he can defend himself by impaling the dude's palms on them when he tries to do a slap. The second thing I remember, and the thing that's actually germane to this video, is an arc where Chimney fights this one guy who, once again, has an unbeatable move, so Chimney can't beat him, and he gets told to go meditate in a forest. While he's meditating, a storm blows in, and Chimney watches how the large, sturdy tree is broken by the storm, while the flexible bamboo is unharmed. Chimney learns that if you are rigid like the tree, and stand in place opposing an unexpected force, you will be broken. But if you are flexible like the bamboo, and move with that unexpected force, you will endure. As it is with shonen martial arts stories, so it is with fiction writing. As a writer, it is good to have ideas about where you want your story to go, and what you want to say with your ending, but it is also important to know when to abandon the ideas you had previously when better ideas come along. When the characters you've created start journeying onto new paths, you need to be prepared to follow them down those paths if a more interesting story lies at the end. This, then, is the way to break the metaphysical curse of being Barney Stinson. Ignore the ending you thought you wanted years ago, and let the character lead you to the end of the journey you have set them on. This is a video about How I Met Your Mother did Barney dirty, and as such, it didn't have a place for the following complaints, but by God I'm going to make them anyway. Yes, the complaints are about queer representation. Complaint 1. The show, especially towards the end, is aggressively flirting with the idea that Lily, and to a lesser extent Marshall, are bisexual. Lily is so sexually attracted to Robin that it frequently comes pretty close to outright sexual harassment.
Absolutely not. I'm not going anywhere near you in a martini. Why not? Ooh. No, it'd be stupid if we made out. That would be so stupid. Hey, I dare you guys to dare us to make out.
But Lily finding other women, especially Robin, sexually attractive is always just a punchline. A joke, a goof, a funny time laugh that gives us all a little giggle. The show never actually commits to Lily being an actual bisexual and expressing bisexual attraction in a way that isn't a punchline. And it sure as hell never musters up the courage to actually use the B word that mainstream American media is so apparently terrified of saying.
I was just a little bi-curious.
Complaint 2. Holy cats, this show is way more transphobic than you remember. Like, aggressively, concerningly transphobic. Like in this scene where Ted contemplates what his date's deep dark secret might be.
You don't buy beer, you rent it. Am I right?
This is the men's room.
I know. I'm a dude.
Or this scene where they discuss Marshall's car.
How's the Fiero? She's still in triage.
She? I thought it was your little boy.
Oh, it goes back and forth. It's sort of a tranny car.
Or these scenes where Ted meets Zoe for the first time.
It was the site of the Arcadian, one of New York's grandest old hotels. In its heyday, it was the New York home to kings and queens. But lately, mostly just queens.
Hi, handsome. Looking for a date?
No, thank you. Still got it.
Beautiful building, right?
Look, mister, you are very convincing, and I am very flattered. Confused, even, but I'm not looking.
Not a drag queen. But you definitely have me rethinking this eyeshadow. Can't wait to be all run down and weathered and wrinkly.
Well, I'd say you got a pretty long wait.
That's sweet. It would be sweeter if you hadn't thought I was a tranny before, but...
Or this scene about a transvestite hooker.
Last night, I stood out on the street for 5 hours showing your photo to random pedestrians, no takers. Although this transvestite hooker said she would do you for half price because you kind of look like John Cusack and her favorite movie was Say Anything.
Or this scene with Ted and Barney.
Hey, Barney, there's a bunch of models in the lobby, and the gossip is one of them is really a dude. You want to play Who's Hot and Who's Scott?
It's always the one in the turtleneck, Ted.
The good news is I just got the phone number of a husky-voiced hottie in a turtleneck.
Or this scene where Ted contemplates why his friends don't like his new girlfriend.
I bet he's going to the urinal. Yeah, I remember when I had a penis.
Bonus points. This scene happens immediately after he wonders if she murders puppies for fun. This means that in Ted's mind, being transgender is worse than murdering puppies for fun. And I don't even have time to get started on all the homophobia in this show.
Wow, who knew being in a committed heterosexual relationship could make a guy so gay?
Special thanks, as always, to my patrons for their generous support, and no special thanks to this little asshole who knocked the green screen over because he wouldn't stop clawing at it, and then he had to be locked in the laundry, and he had a little sook about it. Also thanks to Sean Dillon for coming up with that Tachyon Boogaloo joke, and pointing out that my original joke of Watchmen 2, Watch Harder, is actually a joke about Doomsday Clock, not Pax Americana. Dairy!
We're done. We're done with the video.
Ray, what do you mean we're done with the video,
We're
Ray?
done with the video.
But I was doing my big pause. I say legendary and I do a big pause. You know that, Ray. Everybody knows that, Ray.
Yeah, but you took too long. We're done.
Just okay?